Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for yet another episode of the VOD. I am so excited. I am so happy. So why don't we get this on the road? Where is my thing? There's that. And there is that. Oh, wonderful. Oh gosh, I'm still getting used to like all of these freaking I'm getting used to all of these whatchamacallits, the hotkeys for my model. So I'm gonna preface something. There's not gonna be there's really not gonna be any redeems for this episode, as I want to make sure that because we're short on time, and by short I mean we have a very busy guest, does a lot of really good work, and we bounce back and forth doing different collabs and different things. So I did take them all away. And so I wanted to make sure that I didn't get off track and I didn't get I suppose I could do one. Yeah. Wait, who's the wiggly boy I see? What do you mean the wiggly boy? Not important. Point is, fine. This is what I'll do. The throwing ones will still remain there. Okay, as soon as you get that. So there's that, and I'm gonna mute my audio for that. That way it doesn't bother us. It doesn't there. So you guys can throw stuff. However, I won't hear it. You guys won't hear it. It won't be so distracting. So anyway, guys, today is a very fun day. It's a very special day. Why? Because we get to have another wonderful guest to the VOD. And that is a very funny feeling, not hearing anything with that. Welcome, Amy. Welcome. And because our guest is very busy, this is only going to be about an hour-long show. But I imagine it's still going to be a very, very entertaining and a very, very good show. So I encourage you guys to stick around, have fun, comment, ask questions, be appropriate, and if you don't, you will suffer the wrath of our wonderful head mod, Tathan, who will challenge you to duels and whatnot. He will send you to jail. But anyway, this is fun because we get to have a very special guest with us today. Now, for those that don't know a lot about the VTuber circuit and a lot of things that go on, there are several channels that cover various aspects of VTubing, and they come in many different forms. Now, one that sticks out is a group called TVS, which is Things Vtubers Say. And if you guys are not following that group, I highly encourage you to. They do a lot of good work and they cover a lot of things. Like, it's a lot of good information. And I highly encourage you guys to go follow and support them. We get to have one of their VTubers on, and I'm losing my train of thought. But we get to have one of their wonderful VTubers on who works with FalseEyeD. Now, our guest is very much a content creator, a streamer, and a VTuber of their own. So, they do a lot of good work. They put in a lot of effort, and especially with what I see on my Twitter timeline, they have, he has some fun interests we'll talk about a little bit, which is incorporated in our little introduction. So we're gonna get right into this because we have a lot to talk about in a short amount of time. So today we will be welcoming the British co-host of Things Vtubers Say, where alongside FalseEyeD and LaeDee, I'm sorry. Please don't come at me, Co. I looked over and then my sort of dyslexia was like, wait a minute. FalseEyeD and LaeDee, they talk about VTubers, or in the case of our guest, just one VTuber, as he won't stop talking about Hoshimachi Suisei, which I don't know what that is, but I hope we can talk about it. So please, let's give a resounding Kohio to Codee. There it is. It's working. Heck yeah. Well, Codee, this is a talk I've been really looking forward to. I've been super enjoying. How are you doing today? Oh. It wouldn't be. It would not be a Val branded stream if Discord did not want to work. Every time. My audio. Fun fact: my audio was going wrong is a big part of my channel.
Honestly, are you really a VTuber if there's no VTuber stuff?
Honestly. So yeah. But anywho, we're just thrilled to have you here. Hopefully, with all the things that are going on, because didn't HoloFest just happen?
Yeah, HoloFest was last weekend.
And you were covering that pretty extensively.
Yeah, it's like one time a year where I basically lose my mind because I got to go through thousands of tweets and figure out which ones I want to talk about and which I'm going to put in an episode, and it's pain.
But it's good work, and the proof is in the pudding. Like, we see how much hard work you put into that, and everybody at TVS for that matter. So, and especially covering something like HoloFest, any of these big events that are happening in VTubing, I can only imagine how much time you sit there and you're like, wow, I gotta write this stuff down, I gotta focus it out, I gotta model it out. How am I gonna structure this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yes, Phantom is still on the shelf. He has not left. So, before we get any further with those questions, it's time to ask my first, and in my opinion, our most important question. That is, Codee, who are you, and what is your story?
Well, I am Codee. I'm a co-host of Things Vtubers Say. I originally just joined them from an audition. So a lot of people who are just new to the channel and new to False and the rest of the TVS team don't know that all of the co-hosts auditioned for their roles. So I was part of the audition process. It took roughly around a couple of months. And then I ended up joining them. So prior to that, I had been doing something very similar to what you're doing, which is I had it on my own podcast with a couple of co-hosts as well, and we used to talk about a whole bunch of things in the VTubing scene.
And when you figured this out, when you saw that the auditions were happening, you just were you thinking to yourself like, man, I need to do this, or was just like, that'd be a really cool experience to do?
Honestly, to be completely real, I saw the audition thing. I didn't know anything about False or his channel. I saw his videos come up on my YouTube recommended, and but I'd never watched them. I'd never bothered. And then I saw the audition for it, and the first thing I thought was, what is this? And then I went and clicked on some of the videos that he did, and then I looked back at the audition form and I thought, you know what? I could do this.
Yeah,
this is easy. Let me do this. So I did a little audition video, sent that over, and here we are.
And since then, like, I imagine it's just been a brand new set of experiences that just never would have thought otherwise. Because like when I haven't I auditioned for a couple of groups back in the day. I never got anything further than that. But when I would audition for like productions and commercials and things like this in the past, and I actually get it, it's like every experience just builds on itself. And I imagine this is no different. Just a really cool opportunity to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So as a streamer, and because we're gonna talk a little bit about yourself before we talk a little bit about your experience being a part of TVS, is what all do you like to do? What all do you like to stream and to do in your own content, in your own sphere?
Yeah. Well, I mean, prior to joining TVS, I was mainly an FPS streamer. I came from the video games industry, actually. So
yeah,
I was a keynote speaker in the video games industry. So if you've seen video game shows where there's people on stage talking about like unreleased games or playing through them and doing like walkthroughs for unreleased games for,
you're kidding,
video games companies, I did that for a while.
Kidding.
And I think that's just where my confidence in public speaking has just come from. And being able to do and talk about stuff and deal with the public, clapbacks for crappy stuff.
and then once you kind of found that stride of being in content creation, like, oh man, I can really use these kind of public speaking skills to just throw myself out there and just be a real force for, this is my public persona. I what you're seeing is what you're getting, kind of a deal. Like you're on a keynote stage. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. One of the biggest issues I had when I was in the video games industry is that I couldn't actually stream because of a conflict of interest.
Really?
Yeah. So I was working for one of the soft companies, if that makes sense.
Ah, yes. I completely
yeah,
understand.
and so I couldn't actually stream particular things without authorization or just in general because of conflict of interest.
Those pesky NDAs and stuff.
Yeah, and it's just like I couldn't say play competitor games on stream and talk about them for example, if there was a game that I played and it was not to my liking, I could not say anything distasteful against it whatsoever. One of my most memorable pieces, and I've talked about this on my channel before. One of my most memorable things is I was one of my friends tweeted at me a very sad Pikachu face, and was like, "This is how Nintendo owners feel with the lack of games." And I replied with a LOL, an LOL. And Nintendo got in contact with my company and told me that I had to take that down.
It's that strict.
Yeah.
Dang. And I imagine since then, because I don't know how long NDAs last for a lot of things, but I imagine it's one of those things where you're happy you're not under such restrictions, but I imagine, just moving away from that, there are still practices you try and keep, where you're trying to be pretty, what's the word? Middle of the road type thing,
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a game that's just released recently, and I've known about it for like, I don't know, 7 years or something.
7 years.
yeah. Like when I joined the industry, I was super young, like fresh out of school. So yeah, I've known about it for like ever.
Yeah.
And it was very exciting.
That's
when you're so young as well, it's like you're literally fresh out of like college or whatever.
Yeah.
At least it was for me, fresh out of college, and you get given an opportunity to work in the video games industry. Like it's a dream come true, right? So you stay there for a while.
Yeah, I know. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So for me, it's just an incredible experience, and for me, a lot of it was just I get to stay up on stage and talk about games that I loved. I end up leaving the company hating all the games that I originally loved.
Oh no. Oh, that the thing is, once I graduate, because I'm going to be going to my senior year of university, this next month, and with a degree in communications, I'm hoping to go more into Hollywood, and so I primarily work as an ADR engineer. However, I have a big background in audio engineering, and so when I graduate, I'll be working for a company, because I could be applying, but it's more of a formality. I'll be working with an ADR company in Los Angeles, and so my biggest worry is like, I'm here, I did it, and then it's just downhill, and that's my biggest worry is like, wow, it's not as big and grandiose as you thought. It's kind of like working at a McDonald's, where you're just like, it's any other job. Not to say there's anything wrong with McDonald's if you work at McDonald's, but it's just one of those things where you look up to it and you idolize it so much, and all of a sudden you actually see what it is, and you're just like, oh, well, they're just normal people. This is just a normal job, a normal industry,
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me it was just so I never went to university, so
Yeah.
I didn't have a degree in anything, so for me to just suddenly jump in and join the marketing and PR team was just a bit whoa. I was just kind of learning on the job. But it's those experiences, I guess, that got me to a place where I'm able to just readily talk about it for things like TVS and just be really comfortable about stuff like that.
It sounds like a real privilege of an experience. I mean, all of that building on top of each other, it certainly culminates. Now, are you hoping that, as you get further along in the future, and this is way off in the future, this is like anytime soon, but do you have any plans or any things that you kind of like to do with all the experience you've grown? Is there like some dream that you kind of want to have with all this?
For me, I miss the esports scene.
Uh-huh.
So I was very, very involved with a particular shooter for this soft company. And I love that. I also, once I left, I also did a little stint of being an grassroots Overwatch coach. So I coached a couple of teams.
Oh, heck yeah.
Who eventually won tournaments. I was a player as well for another team. And so I really like that sort of stuff. So I'm kind of just sort of bringing that back with tournaments. Now, we see VTuber tournaments all the time. There's usually just Apex and maybe Valo. It's mostly Apex, I think, at the minute. But there isn't so many for a bunch of the other shooting games that exist. So there isn't so many with Overwatch, for example, which is almost like my bread and butter.
Yeah.
So I've hosted a few Overwatch tournaments, and they've been so.
They're hit or miss.
The first one was just like a test. The second one I focused on production. I've got a third one coming up that I'm kind of planning with, and it's just slowly getting better and better. And
of course,
all of my tournaments, the old tournaments anyway, they're all up on my YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to see that kind of quality and there's things I'm trying to bring into it, then that's always going to happen. But I want to expand that into other games as well. So that's my goal, is just to bring more of the competitive scene into at least with the FPS genre, into VTubing.
I know exactly what you're talking about in terms of planning and trying to get these things off the ground. Like I did recently I did a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, and while it was only 8 people, playing card games and all that, it was very much the first one was a little bit of a crash and burn because we had a big turnout, a lot of cool people. At the very end of it, we ended up having the 2 people declared the winners, where it was a tie at the very end.
Yeah, it's I think with tournaments in general, you kind of have to run them on a trial and error process, right? I've experienced that myself, where I've thought about pretty much everything, and then as it kind of unwinds and you go through the process, and then after the tournament you ask for some feedback, and then somebody goes, yeah, this was unfair. And it's little things like, how do you stop stacked teams, for example? And if you do that, there's caveats around creating creating your own teams or letting others create their own teams, and then it means that you've got less of a player pool to work with because people want to play with their friends. It's such a difficult thing to manage logistically.
And it makes you grateful for those organizers. Also, it appears that you appear to be static there, friend.
Oh, that's weird.
All right. Let's boop. Did that fix it? My favorite thing is when Streamlabs has lately been very unreliable. But it's the only thing that works well with my show, because that's embarrassing. We'll push past that. Hopefully it'll sort itself out. But in the meantime, I have to ask before we move on to our next section. Who are your 3 mains in Overwatch? Your tank, your DPS, your healer?
I'm a tank main.
Yeah.
Mostly play at the minute I'm mostly playing Sigma, Orisa, and Winston. But I started with Reinhardt. It's just Reinhardt's in a really crappy place for this season.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
He's basically not worth playing.
See, let us pray for it to work. Yeah. Worst case, we hop with VDO Ninja, and thankfully we're tech savvy individuals. We adapt. We can do that while we talk.
Yeah.
Now, is there a character who you, besides Ryan, that you hope will receive a buff that will, that can? Because recently, what did they roll out? Healing for all.
Yeah, so they rolled out the DPS debuff and I think that kind of ruined it for tanks. um, and they've rolled out healing for everyone. Yeah, so which again doesn't really work for tanks. So the healing in Overwatch is if you are playing, if you're out of combat for 5 seconds, you start healing yourself. The problem is with Overwatch, there's one tank, and basically almost no point where you can stay out of combat for 5 seconds, otherwise your team will die. So tanks never get a chance to use that passive at all.
I remember my buddy when he heard the news, he's just like, "What about my Roadhog? What is the point of my Roadhog?" And then he realized, wait a minute, my Roadhog is even better. And but I'm certainly a DPS guy. Well, it's kind of I kind of double dip, because I'm either playing as Cassidy or I'll be a Lucio main. So, and I remember when I played on my PlayStation before I swapped to PC, I got so into playing Lucio that I completely rebound everything on my controller. So all of my jump grinding and swapping mechanics were all on my shoulder buttons. So my jump was now my L1. Which,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and it worked. Like, it just worked. I don't know, in the wise words of Todd Howard. Oh, so that's a good cue to sort of move on to our meat and potatoes of this show. Now, as some of you guys know, hey Lunar, welcome. As some of you guys know, I try my best to research and understand a little bit more about my guests. That way, I can, accurately and fairly represent, them and what they do, because it's super awesome. Swap to that guy that way. We're both kind of working out with that. So, but you are a part of a group, as you talked about before, that you auditioned for. So could you please give us, just quickly, what is TVS for those that might not know?
So TVS is just a group of individuals. The channel was created by FalseEyeD.
Yep.
And he literally talks about the things that VTubers say. So current news, trending news within VTubers, the VTuber sphere, across corporate and independent VTubers and other groups as well. And a lot of people ask if we're a company, which we're not. We are a group of individuals, and we've been very open about how we work. We run on something called a collaboration contract. So there is a contract between all of us.
Yeah.
As the co-host and the main host, False, where we are contractually obligated to create X amount of videos per month, or in regards to what topic that we are given or assigned. Luckily for me, as somebody who's like really into Hololive Japan, I was given, of course,
yeah,
the Hololive Japan segments.
Oh, heck
so
yeah.
I talk about Hololive Japan a lot.
Now, what led you to want to audition? And, and because you talked about a little earlier, but, just becoming this co-host, was there something more than just, this would be a fun experience, I want to do this? Or is it just still that same kind of mentality throughout?
It was literally, when I first auditioned, my initial thought was literally, oh, I can do this. This is easy. I didn't really think anything of it. During my interview, I was kind of just talking about my previous skills, which I talked to, just earlier in this section about being a keynote speaker and stuff like that. So I think that really helped solidify what he was looking for. But also, for him, what False did say is one of the major things about the role itself of the co-host is just being able to enunciate everything.
Yeah.
And to speak in a tone and a manner that's very understandable across, internationally.
Yeah.
And I think that was, again, one of the things that really solidified my audition among many others.
I think that's
a lot. I think it was about 600 people who applied for Codee.
Ooh! So Codee is a character then.
Yeah, Codee is so the way that we all work, we're all androids.
Oh,
Codee is an AI presence that was uploaded into this android body.
I see.
Um, the auditions that originally went live were of two of us.
Mm-hmm.
So there was two co-hosts, Codee and Heidi.
Yeah,
So it's a male and female co-host.
and I've been seeing that pop up because I remember LaeDee, you know, it was about a year ago, I want to say,
Mm.
because it's like, oh, I don't remember because I've been watching FalseEyeD for when I started getting into VTubing,
Mm.
of the people I started to watch besides the big ones of like Iron Mouse and like
Mm-hmm.
Chibidoki and all of that. One
Mm-hmm.
of them that I thought to watch was False because I'm like, well, I want to learn, I want to be up to date, I want to learn more about VTubing as a whole, and so I remember at a time when I was like, oh, this is a new person, and so I kind of remember when he started to expand a little bit
Mm.
in that. At least by the time that I started watching, I don't know the whole false ID TVS timeline.
Yeah, I think a lot of people found False from um, Mouse's Speak of the Devil. So I think he was like the
Yes,
second or third person who went on her show.
I thought he was the first.
Maybe I
Because that was something that I thought was really interesting when I was looking at False for the first time. Was
Mhm.
I was like, is False ID her first guest? Let's see. Oh nope. Oh, that was close. I'm like, I don't want to play her VODs on my. Let's see. But yeah, I'm something like that. One of the first.
Yeah, he was an early guest, and that's how everyone discovered him. Back then, there weren't too many VTubers to talk about,
Uh-huh.
and in the last year, he had to pick up a co-host where he picked up LaeDee.
Number 2, you were on the money.
Number 2, yeah, he picked up LaeDee, and then LaeDee. After that, the following year, 2 years into the VTuber sphere, I guess, is when we start seeing more and more corporate agencies turn up, more groups turn up, more indies turn up, and it gets to that point where he just needed more co-hosts to cover pretty much everything, because otherwise he'd be covering everything. I think part of the reason was probably burnout. I can imagine just doing an episode every day to cover pretty much everything is gonna absolutely kill you.
He streams a lot.
Yeah, so he streams a lot. What he does is, and something I used to do, but I don't anymore because I get really distracted. But he usually has everything set up for the episode, and he'll talk to the community about it, and everyone can have a little discussion about it. Things are going on, and then he'll record the episode offline.
Dang, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, for me, it's just I found that really difficult because I could get everything set up, and I'd get really distracted talking about everything, and then I'd like get really close to my deadlines and have to rush record. So I've switched it out so that I just do everything off stream now. But I do leave like any mistakes and stuff in my I just send him the raw recording so that he can use them for bloopers.
Oh, that's beautiful. How do you stay up to date with all of the things and all the things and the trends that happen within the VTuber community? Because as you're talking about you're focusing on Hololive JP, maybe there's other things that could pop up. How are you trying to do this? Because there's so much that, and maybe there's not as much happening that I think there's, but how do you stay up to date on all this?
Yeah, so we have a Discord. We have False has a Discord, TVS has a Discord, and it's a community of just people who love VTubers, right? And there's about 7,000 people in our Discord.
Woo!
And you imagine they're all fans of VTubers. They all want us to talk about their favorite VTubers. So we're very lucky that we have a very organized Discord of just sections where people can talk about Hololive Japan, EN, Hollow Stars, Nijisanji, EN, and JP, and VShojo, and pretty much any other group, Phase Connect, and so on and so forth. So for me, I can just go into any one of those particular channels that people are posting about, run through what people are talking about throughout the week, and catch up on that. In my case, for the stuff that I do, there are a couple of VTubers, Hololive Japan VTubers that I follow, so they pop up on my feed all the time, which is so they end up going into it anyway, and there'll be people like A-chan, for example, who's one of the Hololive staff. It helps to have one of them to follow one of them. I like to keep up with Hachima, so anything that happens with her, I'll usually pop into a segment. And one of the things I try to do is, because my Oshi is Suisei, I try to fit at least one story, if not one piece of art, in every single segment that I do, even if it's not even like not good updates or has nothing to do with any of the stories that I'm talking about. It'll be one of the two: a Suisei story or just random art at the end when I'm handing it over to False.
Sounds like you have a pretty good handle on all this news gathering and all this just event stuff. I mean, I feel like it's a very interesting way of really incorporating that sense of community where all the stuff that you guys talk about, it's very much a, hey, you guys are the reason why we're able to learn and be able to grow together, is because this is a group effort. So it's not just us doing all of it. You know, we're learning from you guys. We're doing our own research, but we're also learning from you guys. That kind of leads me into my next question is, besides what you've mentioned before, are there any other ways that you try to encourage and foster viewer participation and feedback?
I think for me, I always put it like, if I want more people to talk about things, I'll put a tweet out and see, you know, between all of us, the three of us, we've got a pretty hefty following on Twitter, so we can just put some feeler information out if we need anything. I just like to throw it in the Discord, in like the general chats, to see what people have. And there's like multiple threads of things that go on in there as well. So if something happened, I like to pop into these threads. I think, like, for example, one of the more recent ones was there was a recent termination in Hololive, and I just pop into that thread and see what people are going, and I'll ask a couple questions, how people are feeling. And it's just good to get an overall, I guess, a general vibe check to see how people are feeling, and then I can just go on and search, you know, particular keywords that I need to search on things like Twitter, which is my main source for talking about everything.
I feel like in this day and age, if you want to be caught up on anything relating to the VTuber community, you have to be on Twitter.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, but that is super cool to hear how much you guys really just interact and talk with your community. Because when it comes to a lot of VTuber groups, I don't know the ins and outs, so it's very much a brand new world to me. Because I imagine people like myself are like, well, you know, a lot of the stuff they do is business related behind closed doors, and so to be able to hear about how much you guys really try to be one with your community, it's a very uplifting thing to hear.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially because, I mean, just taking the side of the things that I cover myself, there's, you know, over 60 Hololive Japan talents.
Yeah.
Over 20 Holo Stars talents across EN and JP. And then there's like another 20 odd EN talents from Hololive as well. So we're talking over 100 talents. And how does one person keep up with all of them? Impossible.
Yeah. It's just, you have people that just, they happen to be following and interested, you know, and I think that's a very smart way to go about doing it. I mean, it's say, you know, hey, you guys are already big fans of that, you let us know what's going on, and we'd love to talk about that. That way you're not having to go, hey, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? It's like, you guys are already doing that. Why don't we work together? Why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, right now it takes a couple of hours for me to build an episode, write the script, record it.
Of course.
And that's with the ability to be able to go into specific Discord channels and find out the correct tweets that I want to use. Now,
of course,
you know, if none of that was there, it wouldn't take me so much longer to make an episode.
Yeah, the job I work at currently, while I talk about I'm an audio engineer, that's what I do. I technically, more of my responsibility is actually in broadcast engineering. And just the amount of work that goes into, we do a 1 hour like international broadcast every week, and the amount of work that goes into that is, beyond my comprehension. So as I hear more about these different forms of it, it's like I can only imagine writing one episode takes quite a little bit of time to do. Not to mention that's just the first draft, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think the crazy thing for me is like I basically don't do drafts. I just kind of
Yeah.
which some people will find insane, but it takes me like maybe about an hour and a half to go through all the different sections and pick out the tweets that I want to talk about and sift through the ones that are good and like I guess the good stuff from the trash, I guess, because there's a lot of tweets about people going live and that's not too important unless there's a big reason for them going live. But False, on the other hand, he is another different, like he is a completely different breed of person. So False will literally build everything and record everything in one go. Like he doesn't write anything down beforehand.
Yeah.
And again, me being a keynote speaker, I am so used to having a script and reading a script. Or and writing a script, reading a script, and performing that script. A script is a really important thing for me as a keynote speaker. For False, he literally, it just comes from the top of his head. It's
that's
like
off the
he's freestyling these updates, and he was like, yeah, this is how I do it. You should do it this way, and I'm like, I cannot do it your way, False. You do you.
That I guess that's something that as I watch his content, because he's one of the last few individuals, like TVS in general is one of the last like kind of groups regarding just VTuber, because I don't want to use the word VTuber news or the phrase, but rather just just information. And so False and TVS are one of the last ones that I continue to watch because I feel like the content is very respectable. But not only that, something that is separates it, I think, a lot is the clarity, because you talked about that earlier. The quality of content and how not only what you're speaking about, but how you're speaking it. Again, he's a very articulated individual.
Yeah. I mean, the news thing is something that we've never claimed to be.
Of course.
I have no journalistic skills or qualifications other than the fact that I've done like public speaking, and that's pretty much my only experience in anything really to do with talking. But it's something that gets thrown upon pretty much any commentary channel, I would say.
It has to
that talk about VTubers. For example, there's other people out there like Kyo and Rev that talk about VTubers. Hero High.
No.
And whether some people call them news, some people don't. People call them drama channels. They call us drama channels. I think it's very topical. It depends on the topic, whether you get called a news source or a drama source. That can change very different. And ultimately, all of these channels literally are just regurgitating the information that's already out there. And so whether they can be called news channels or not, I don't know. It's down to their own personal opinion or how their own view of how they do it. I literally, for all of my segments, I could like wholeheartedly say all I do is shill Hololive and tell you to watch XYZ because it's good.
Well, I think it's very well put. Because I think what it boils down to at the end of the day, you guys are content creators, and that's at the very end of the day, that's what everyone is just content creators.
I'm just your like that one person in your friend group that won't shut up about this one thing.
Trust me, when it comes to talking about Dr. Pepper and audio engineering, that's literally my like 90% of my streams. Oh goodness. So now, speaking of content creation, being a content creator, due to the nature of being a streamer and a content creator, how do you balance being well informed with maintaining a conversational and engaging tone during the show? Does that make sense?
Yes. Question mark. Yeah.
Let me expand a little bit. Let me expand on that a little bit. Because when I say content creator, that's why on my script, holy. Sorry, pardon me. There's just a lot of bits. Wasn't expecting that. Thank you, Finch, for those bits. I appreciate. What are you doing? You're the first person. You're the first person with like full body tracking, and never in my wildest dreams I think somebody would reach up and try and touch it. Oh goodness. Whew. That was golden. Thank you, Fitch. You didn't have to do that. I appreciate that. But talking about that a little bit, being a content creator, you know, there's sort of this view and way you kind of act, that, you know, like as you can tell, I scream. I'm very animated. I'm very big. I'm very emotional. And so, how do you balance kind of being that, you're doing that, you know, being that well-informed, calm, collected individual while still kind of being conversational and engaging? Because, you know, it's entertainment. At the end of the day, it's entertainment.
Yeah, I think for me it's kind of the way that I am in episodes versus the way that I am on stream are two very I say two different attitudes or two different directions. I've always had like a presentation voice.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit slower. And again, I have to think about international audiences and understanding accents as well, because of course I've got a British accent. And from personal experience, I've or I've seen that there's some words that, if said in an American accent, it's more globally understandable than in a British accent. So there are things that I'll change up, and so on and so forth. There's just these are all tiny little things that I've noticed through personal experience, again, through public speaking. But what usually happens is all of this can come out through the end of the episodes, because again, like I said before, I send False all my raw recordings, so all the little personality traits that I have get shown off in the bloopers when things go wrong or I read something wrong, and you know, I do a redo or whatever. But yeah, it's mainly it is too different. I'm much more casual in my streams. I'm much more British, I guess, and I swear a lot.
That's a charm. It's a little bit of a charm. No, I get it. There's it's one of those, it's like one of those things where so I was talking with this one of my guests that'll be on, like, the very last guest for episode 50 of the VOD. I was talking with her, and when I saw her on, how I would describe her, and this will kind of maybe give you an idea. You know Tenma Miami? She is exactly like that, except, like, I don't know, like, she has that energy, and she, like, you know, the screams, the yells at chat kind of vibe. And yeah, you know, when I watch this content, I'm like, wow, this is so funny, this is so neat. I want to have her on my show. I think that'd be a really fun way to end the show. I just smacked my mic. Have a really fun way to end the show. And I got into a Discord call with her, and like 180, completely I'm like, whoa, the mask came off. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is what it is. And she, you know, we talked a little bit, and we're like, yeah, no, it's just it's a character, you know. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you know, kudos to you. That is impressive to maintain that. You know, that's not to say that, yeah, you know, streamers do that all the time, but it still blows me away that people are able to do that.
I think it's just probably easier for me because, you know, I literally am just presenting, as opposed to streaming, and so it's easy for me to not have to do a character. You know, I don't. It was, this is, you know, I auditioned for this character that was given to me, and you know, I didn't get a chance to design any of it, so it's less. I would say it's less personal, because you know, a model, for most people who are into VTubing or get into VTubing, the model is a little bit of you. There's a lot of your own personality, your own likes, that go into the design of the model. Whereas for me, it was just given to me. So, you know, I don't have like a deep attachment to the model. And because of that, I don't think there's not a character I have to play. Even for the auditions, I saw a lot of the people who were auditioning, and I saw a lot of the community. guessing what kind of person would get recruited for this role. And everyone thought he'd be like a just based on the art, he'd be some sort of stoic, deep voiced ikemen type character. And then you got me. And one of the things that False did say before the big reveal was that Codee's his words exactly were, Codee's voice might not be what you're expecting. And I was like, all right, thanks, False, cool. But yeah, it was a voice that people, again, it wasn't what people thought you'd get from the art that was given out, but it's a voice that everyone is just absolutely fine with.
And I feel like, you know, at this point, I couldn't see, you know, until if you happen to leave and they happen to have somebody to be the next, you know, your successor. I can't imagine a different voice for Codee.
Yeah. I know. I've always said that if I ended up leaving TVS, I'd prefer for somebody to I guess get re-uploaded into the body. I don't want it to die. I think it's a cool model.
Well, I think it's a cool concept as well.
Yeah. But you know, it's entirely up to False. I think when Heidi left us, because obviously she graduated not too long ago. I think False retired the model. So the model, I don't think the model's coming back. We're not going to get another Heidi. If we do get another co-host, it won't be a Heidi. But I don't know if was a choice that False made or a choice that Heidi made. But yeah,
regardless,
for me, if I had the option, I'd like somebody to just be readopted into Codee.
That's awesome. Well, do you have any last thoughts to share regarding the questions, that any of these questions we may have missed? And
I don't think so.
If not, I have one last question before we get into our final 10 questions, and that is, my train of thought, it just went out the window. It was something along the lines of just, you know, what is perhaps something that, you know, in your experience of doing this, that it would be neat to know. Not something we need to know, but just, you know, something that'd be cool to know. You know, that you're able and willing to share. You know, that we may not be aware of. When I say it may not be aware of, I'm talking about like how I'm trying to, you know, how I'm trying to phrase this.
Like a like a final thought kind of thing.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
As a piece of as a piece of advice for everybody.
Yeah, just kind of like
if
that.
I want to give any advice to anybody about anything, it's just if you see an audition and you thought about auditioning for it, just do it. You gain nothing from failing an audition except experience.
I like that. I love that. That's very well put. You know, 100%. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go into our last 10 questions? Now, these 10 questions are questions that I love asking to my guests because it was created by famous writer, actor, director James Lipton that he would often ask to his guests on his show Inside the Actor's Studio. Now, these questions, there is no right, there's no wrong answer. It's merely just fun questions that we get to learn a little more about you as a person. So, first one, what is your favorite word, Codee?
My favorite word? Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I like that word because you can say it in different tones and it can mean different things.
Interesting.
Like, yeah. Yeah?
I like that.
Yeah.
I guess I never realized how much I said yeah. Oh. So I say that and then I say ye.
Oh.
What is your least favorite word?
Moist.
Really? Like,
I hate it.
Surprisingly, that's a word that has not been said as a least favorite word in the almost 4 months I've been asking these questions twice a week. Moist is not a word.
It sounds gross. Moist.
Ooh. That's fair. That is really fair. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Suisei. No, I like a good.
You heard it here, folks.
I like a good singing voice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Suisei?
people, yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I really love her. But like, just in general, there's a lot of my friends that can sing have like great singing voices, and I just love listening to that. And for me, that's just I get very emotionally attached to singing voices.
That's awesome. Singing is a very nice outlet. What turns you off creatively, spiritually, or emotionally? The word voice.
The unwillingness to discuss things.
Oh.
And I say this in terms of conflict. I hate it when there's a conflict, for example, and people are unwilling to discuss things further. So my day job is a corporate trainer, and as somebody who has to train people in things like soft skills and stuff, I dislike when people cannot manage conflict appropriately.
Yeah, conflict management is a very important thing. I was talking to somebody about that, of just, how important dialogue is, and just, you walk away from something, if you don't figure out, you just don't discuss it. It's just, you leave it festering and you continue to get the wrong ideas. Or
and most relationships, whether it be platonic or otherwise, they are destroyed by a lack of communication.
Yeah, it's how we live in this world. Very. There it is. Heck yeah. All right, Codee, what is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Everybody says that, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, it can't not be the everyone's favorite curse word. I tell you why it's the favorite curse word across globally. It's because it's understood globally. No matter what country you go to, everyone understands the word fuck, and it could be said in so many different ways to make it like, enjoyable. It could be a good fuck. It could be a bad fuck. It could be an aggressive fuck. And me saying that in those 3 different ways has given everyone that's listening 3 different images, and we might not all be thinking about the same fuck.
So what you're saying is the F word is a verbal Rorschach test.
Yes.
Where every single one is different.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of like how, what's the saying? The grass is green, but my green might not be the same as your green.
Yeah, you know why? That's because I have color blindness. So
well, there you go.
Oh heck yeah! All right, isn't it like yeah, kinda? Oh yeah. Dang it, now we're just gonna keep saying yeah. What? Yeah. You can.
Yeah.
It goes back to the old theater exercise. Pick one word and have an entire conversation in just that one word. So, what sound or noise do you love?
The sound of noise that I love. I really like the sound of opening a can of Coke.
Ooh, that's
Of course, other brands are available, but
it's the crispiest.
Yeah.
How would I define Coke? A can of Coke is aggressive soda.
Aggressive soda.
It is. Well, that's why I drink Dr. Pepper, because it's a little smoother. I mean, actually, I'm drinking Diet Pepsi currently. Sorry guys, I'm drinking Diet Pepsi. My entire brand just crumples, but
it's gone.
It's, to be fair, it's a very ubiquitous feeling of going, hearing a popping that open. It hits the right spots in the brain. What sound or noise?
I think there was like a psychological test about it or something.
Really?
Or they did a test about the sound of a can of Coke, and it was actually slightly different from opening up cans of other beverages.
Really? I gotta look at that. Well, I typed that in my thing, so I'll take a gander at that later. That's really interesting. What sound or noise do you hate?
Oh, I hate the sound of nails scratching on a chalkboard.
Oh,
I hate that. They put that in like a bunch of horror games as well, and I hate it so much.
It is people think that just because you can doesn't mean you should. All right. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Ooh. Casting, I think.
Really?
Being a caster for various things, I think I'd like to.
Do you have a medium?
As in like esports casting.
Oh, okay. So Yeah, as a caster and like
shoutcasting.
broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would be sick. So I've been trying to get in touch with certain sports teams across the West Coast because I work with several people that have done that. For one of them, my coworkers worked with the Utah Jazz, which is a basketball team in the state of Utah.
Yeah.
And so being able to work for the broadcast department for a team like that, or just any sports team, I feel like that'd be such a fun opportunity.
Yeah.
What profession would you not like to do?
Oh, I would not like to do. Oh, that's an interesting one. What professions do I hate?
Some people say garbage man, other people say accountants.
Maybe being a postman. I don't think I'd like to walk a lot and have to go to. Actually, no. Let me take that back. Delivery driver, because I've done it before and I hated it. I don't want to be. I don't want to be a delivery driver.
Honestly, it's a thankless job, but you know, it's one of those where if you have the option to not do, it's better just to not do.
Yeah.
Our very last question, and again, this is just a fun question. There's not seriousness involved with it. I get a lot of funny answers with this too. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Hey, do you want to be 20 again?
Oh, to be 20, me as I am 3 years older than that. My knees would be 3 years. It would be 3 years better. Honestly, I think that's my favorite answer so far, just because I relate to it on a spiritual level. Again, I'm 23, but boy howdy, they don't tell you things going into adulthood of just being like taxes, insurance. You want bad knees? You want a bad back? There you go. Slide it over you like a drink in a bar. Oh my goodness. Well, Codee, you are a very busy individual, and you have a long day ahead of you in terms of collabs and getting other things together.
I do.
But
going all the way up till 2 a.m. over here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we're able to finish on time with this. But with that in mind, thank you so much for being on the show, and it's time for me to ask my second, and in my opinion, my last and second, son of a gun, me wanting to swear almost came out. It's time for me to ask our last, and in my opinion, my second most important question. That is, Codee, who would you like us to rate out to?
Oh,
well, you
can. Let's rate out. I mean,
yeah,
False is live right now, so you can rate out to False.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's a little intimidating. Well, heck yeah. So with that in mind, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I encourage you guys to join us tomorrow as we get to have Kiera Fordell on our show, and that'll be episode 45 of the show. It'll be at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. See you guys there. Again, this has been such a fun show. Thank you so much for being on, Codee. You are a trooper, and boy howdy. Guys, please go support TVS. They're really good. Like, a lot of fun, I assure you. It's never a dull moment, and you're getting really good information. So please go show some love and support. And oh, that's right, my mods aren't here. My mods are off sleeping. So VOD raid 45. Who's 44? Oh, did I say 45? I meant 44. Look, guys, I'm kind of dumb. We're skipping 44. So anywho, my name is Val. This has been Codee of TVS. And I hope to see you guys later. And dang it, that's embarrassing. Where is he? False. There he is. So yeah, I stopped watching after Gojo left. Get out of here, Phantom. Love you, bud. Anywho, I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Okay, love you. That's our show. Goodbye.
Bye.